This is the CreaseCast.
Okay, I actually didn't even realize this. So the standings right now are Toronto obviously in first with 36 points, right? 17-4-2 record. Winnipeg is second with a 14-7-1 record. They only have 3 less regulation or wins than Toronto. They're tied with Edmonton.
Whoa.
That makes no sense to me at all.
They're somehow like,
And it's the second highest goal
Edmonton...
differential too.
Yeah, holy. I mean, Winnipeg's just chugging along. Like they haven't blown anybody away, and they're also not great.
I was gonna say, I feel like they're the team that has slowly slipped under the radar as being bad and boring enough that you just kind of assume they're always shit, but they're actually winning games like in good fashion. Whereas you have Ottawa, who's really doing their hardest to kick butt and take names, but they're still shit and they still lose.
Ottawa's expected to suck, so when they win, it's like a big deal. Whereas Winnipeg is kind of just expected to be meh. So if they win or lose, it's not really gonna move the needle for anybody.
Yeah,
I think that makes sense. And also this year, I don't think Connor Hellebuck has been necessarily as highlight reel. He hasn't had any highlight reel performances this year, so I think that's kind of playing into it too, because when he's at his best, people are pay attention because he's such a good goalie.
Yeah.
I mean, he's no Laurent Brossoit or anything, but he's all right. He's a pretty good goalie. He's decent.
Well, speaking of Laurent Brossoit, the Canucks kind of broke the curse, sort of. They
did it, kind of.
Asterisk, they beat the curse, but they didn't beat the curse, if you know what I mean. We're coming off of the 4-2 loss. What was it?
A 5-2 loss.
5-2 loss.
Let's recap here. Cody is very, very, very just.
I'm obviously very in tune with the results of this Canucks team.
These last couple games have been, a little too thrilling for Cody's liking. From what I've heard, he has been it's been overstimulating how exciting and great the hockey was in the last couple of games. But hey, they won a game. They won a game and then kind of didn't get shut out by Laurent Brossoit.
That definitely didn't happen.
Definitely Braden Holtby did not come out with a shutout. Oh my god. Oh, poor Braden.
But yeah, they break the Laurent Brossoit curse, which is honestly one of the most embarrassing curses. One of the lesser known but more embarrassing curses of the Canucks organization is that they couldn't beat him via the shutout, and they finally got 1 goal or 2 goals past him. And hey, it took 3 years to accomplish that, but they did it. So, you got to give you a little back pat on there. I guess we're back to moral victory season after a pretty decent victory over a Connor Hellebuck-led Winnipeg Jets team on Monday. And now we're back to moral victory season less than 24 hours later when the Canucks have another very sleepy third period and just see the wheels fall off once again. I feel like that should have been the name for this podcast. It's just the wheels falling off.
I hate that you've turned this into the all aboard the depression train or something.
This is my
this
outlet.
whole show. This whole show is just let's this show is cursed. Let's talk about how sad it is. No,
it's true.
It is not our fault. It is not our fault. This team is bad.
This last game tonight definitely wasn't our fault because we were trying to manifest good vibes. I listened to your show that I wasn't on because of prior AHL obligations, but I thought it was really good. You're really positive, and I think that's what we really needed. And it resulted in a Monday win. And unfortunately, instead of riding the hot hand of Thatcher Demko, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit, the team went to Braden Holtby, who hasn't really done well this season at all. And man, some of the goals spoke for themselves. He just looked, I don't like to use the word, but I'm going to have to. He looks a little washed up. And tonight was not good, which really sucks because Braden Holtby is like a really cool dude. He's like ultra progressive by like hockey player standards. He's got his turtles. Like, unfortunately, like he plays
fan favorite.
You know what I mean? Like it's not. It's really unfortunate because I was really hoping for him to have like kind of a bounce back. I think a lot of people were.
Yeah. I really like Holtby is one of those guys that you want to see succeed. He is absolutely a player that even if he's not on your team, he's the kind of player and personality who you want to see have success. And that's why it was so exciting a couple years ago when after all those tough runs in the playoffs for the Capitals, when they finally got over the edge and won the Stanley Cup. It was such a big deal for everybody, not just because of Ovechkin or Backstrom or Kuznetsov. It was Braden Holtby was a big reason people were cheering for the Capitals.
Yeah.
And this season he looks I don't want to say he looks old because frankly that's not really true. Like he's only a year younger than Jacob Markstrom. If I remember correctly.
He's only a year older than me, so I don't want to call him old because
wow. Oh, so you're bending the description to your liking here, I say.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it really does come down to and I guess we can get into this right now. His transition game and the way he moves cross crease. I talked about it at the beginning of the year. I remember very particularly we mentioned right off the top of the show when we started that early on, Holtby looks a little bit slow reacting to those passes across the net and those passes and those rebounds that pop out for a second chance on the other side of the net. And in this game today, that really victimized him. He really got lit up on shots where if there was a second chance and it was moving across, like on the Kyle Connor goal, he did not react in time to get back for that shot. And even when he got his body in front of it, it wasn't clean. And so he ended up exposing a lot of room. I believe the puck beat him through the 5-hole, which it shouldn't be doing if you're getting across and making that transition a little bit more smoothly.
Yeah.
And there was like the points where he's just kind of like he's fallen over, or he's lying down in the net. The puck's kind of like going zigzagging across behind the net and everything. And by the time he's able to actually get back up, it's in the back of the net. And one of the things I mentioned tonight about the weird thing about all of this is that like it doesn't seem to be a goalie coaching issue. And I'm not saying that because I'm like, I'm a big booster for Ian Clark or anything, but because if you look at what's happened for Thatcher Demko in this year and everything that's gone right for him, a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's gotten so much faster and so much more he's gotten so much more agile at reacting to those second and third chances or those cross ice passes. Mm-hmm. Whereas with Holtby, that's obviously not the case. And it does make me wonder more or less like maybe like I don't want to say he's injured or something, but maybe he's just he just looks stiff. Like his legs look stiff and he looks like he's playing at a speed that he is not he's trying to play a game at a speed that he's just not able to go at right now. And I don't think that's necessarily a permanent issue. But I do think it's something that needs to be fixed. Like I think there might be, I don't know. I can't diagnose or anything. It just looks like he's playing a little bit stiff, and I don't know how to kind of, I guess, how he limbers up a little bit. I don't know if that's like a weight training, if that's an in the gym thing, or if that's like a specific working drill on the ice sort of thing. But that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from him right now, is that he's just like his legs are just not doing the things that he needs them to be able to do right now.
Yeah. Well, he's a consummate professional. Like the Canucks PR staff, for whatever reason, in these games where like, yes, you need him to make a save, but like at the end of the day, like how much is a press person going to get out of Holtby, like any information about his game or his play or like the mistakes or whatever? Like they're not going to get anything. So he gets up there and like the first thing he says is like, yeah, like 2 of those goals, like I need to be so much better at stopping them, because that's all you can really say. And I don't know. I feel like maybe just the mistakes that the Canucks defense and forward groups make are happening at such a rapid pace that his elderly body can't keep up, like you said. Like he just his his cross crease movement like isn't fast enough to react to like the kinds of giveaways that they're having. Like that one goal with Stastny or whatever, where two defensemen are flying to his left side and then they stumble over each other, stumble into him, and then the puck goes out to his right side. He has to react, and then Stastny is just left alone by the forward group at the crease in the slot for an easy one-timer tap in. Like there's no chance for him to even react to that because he's already reacting to 3 prior errors and by his other fellow elderly seniors in his defensive group.
Yeah. The blue line definitely isn't helping matters at all. And you can also just tell with Holtby that there is a little bit of a confidence thing as well, I think, in there as well. Like there were a couple times where he ended up like on his butt on like after like plays or whatever, like scrambling, and that's like a sign, and that's a goalie off balance. Like that's a big red flag if you talk to like a lot of goalie experts, they'll tell you that's a big red flag, because if you're playing your stance correctly, your body should be facing forward. Like it should be a little bit over your pads. And if anything, if you're going to like tip over one way, it should always be toward in front. But if you're falling backwards, that's a problem. And it means you're playing a bit too much back on your heels, and it means it's putting you off balance and makes it tougher to make those minor adjustments mid play. And hey, maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's the solve right there. It really is just it's a game of inches, especially for the goaltenders and the way that they adjust their positioning and everything. And I think with Holtby, that is a bit of a sign that there definitely needs to be some work done.
Yeah. Well, then that kind of gets into our first little segment here is like, who do we give the infinity blocker for the last 2 games? We had, a pretty, I don't want to call it impressive because, a lot of the bounces went the Canucks' way in that first game, and they all happened in the first period. And the last 2 periods of that Monday game, you could kind of tell like they were on their heels quite a bit. And it was just like let's not get scored on. If we score, great. But otherwise, let's just try to keep the puck in their zone, not in ours. And then today's game, you had some kind of, positive points, positive signs. So who would you pick for your infinity blocker? Between the 2 or 1 for each, it doesn't really matter.
I mean, there's only one guy. There's no contest here at who the infinity blocker goes to for me this week, and that is the man Jake who got Virtanen. This is not the oh, poor Jake. This is not this guy. He's gone from a boy and become a man in the last couple days here. He getting his first NHL shutout. Thatcher Demko. Yeah. My boy, I'm so proud. I'm always proud of the goalies when they do well. But he had a statement game. Like that was a statement game where he very much made the "this is my crease" play. That was what it was. He played extremely well. That game could have been much closer had it not been for him and his great play in that game. And, you can credit. And I mean, I will say that I do think that there are a couple other guys who you could realistically give it to if you even like in the combined last couple of games. I think there were some pretty good individual performances overall. But I think it's clear that Demko's game on Monday was just so good and such an important step for him and the team. I don't think there's any other player on the ice you could give it to.
Yeah, that's fair. My pick for the first game obviously would be Demko. Like that game, like I was just trying to, I didn't look up the hockey reference stats for it, but like I was trying to remember, okay, how long did it take into last season for Markstrom or Demko, or obviously not Demko, but for Markstrom to get a shutout? Like, I feel like his first one came like at like the end of the season, if that. It took a while.
Well, that was Demko's first shutout ever. So that was Demko's first shutout ever, obviously against Winnipeg. But with Markstrom, I know he had a few. He had one against Chicago. He had one against Carolina. There were both of which were, I think, like record save nights, I think.
Right.
Like,
it was
there
was that one stretch where they gave up for each Markstrom start. It was like over 40 shots on net or something. And one of those two is when he got his first shutout, and it was like some kind of
that was the
something. And something like that. It was pretty nuts.
That was the 1-0 game against Carolina. That was the game. Right. It went to OT. It went to OT. Literally, the only thing that held them in, they're like Canucks were totally back on their heels. Markstrom was amazing, and then Pettersson had like a ridiculous winner on Peter Mrazek in overtime.
Yeah.
And then the Chicago game, that was like 2-0, which I gave him an award for that, I believe, on LachAndCody.com. I gave him like the Cody Hodgson Award, I think it was, for best single game performance. I think that was that was the award I handed out last year, and that was Sedin night, I think, too. That was the Sedin jersey retirement night, I do believe. Wait, you were at that game? Yeah. Because that was Chicago. You were at the game where he got a shutout and you forgot.
I may have had like six beers. I got to the sixth gear by the time I had my sixth beer by the end of the first period. So that was a tough one. But yeah, like I was just kind of thinking, like for Demko, like getting a shutout like with this bad of a decor in front of him, and like the way that the team is playing, just how awful they've been and how porous defensively they've been. The fact that he's getting a shutout like relatively this early into a season, it's not early, it's like a quarter in, but like last year, given like how relatively better they were and how like relatively much better Markstrom was playing, it's pretty nuts that they got a shutout at all this season.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it is. Like, that's totally
good for him. He's a difference maker, and man, they needed some points badly. And if they can get it off of him being a wall, they'll take it. And just goes back to, again, like, man, they should have gone back to the well and had him again tonight.
Okay, yeah, I disagree. I do not think they should have gone back to him. Okay, like
I'm out.
I know there's the whole. Okay, I know there's the whole thing, like, that I think Don Lucian wrote something about, like, there's a myth about starting goalies on back-to-backs and why you shouldn't do that, it's a myth or whatever, but, okay, even if there was, let's say, for example, that it was totally fine to play them to play goalies on back-to-backs, wouldn't you rather have him play the next two against Toronto instead? Like, would you rather have him fresh and ready to go for those games, and then the next two against Montreal, rather than waste another like extra day of energy on a second game against Winnipeg?
I would look at it as the way the season's going, like mathematically, like they need to put on some kind of 15-0 run basically to even like secure fourth place or third place and getting into the playoffs. So they need to guarantee their points against teams like Winnipeg, Edmonton, Calgary, and I guess now Montreal, given like the kind of weird state and flux that they're in right now. But
yeah, we can talk about that because you weren't here on the last episode when that happened. Yeah. You were not here, so we could talk about that later.
So my whole theory would be if you have to tire your goalie by playing him back-to-backs against a team that you arguably should be getting 4 out of 4 points in, I think you take that bet over getting a great, like a Monday Demko performance against Toronto and still losing 3-0 because your forward groups and defense groups are still not good enough no matter what to beat them.
But okay, but I mean, also at the same time, like this team's not going very far, very fast anyway.
No, it makes no difference.
Why waste? Like it comes down, like, okay. I think a really good example of this is like, you look at some goaltending situations where teams have ran a goalie into the ground and played them an insane amount of games over time, like Calgary, and Edmonton is an example. Edmonton and Cam Talbot is an example I bring up all the time because I really believe that Cam Talbot is much better than people think he is, but
they played him 67 games or 70, whatever it was disgusting.
They played him in a nuts amount of games. And then all the playoff games as well, asterisk, that being the big asterisk in this particular comparison. But then came back the next season, was completely gassed, going into the year.
They broke him.
They broke him, exactly. They broke Cam Talbot. Now, this year is different because, A, you don't know necessarily when you're starting up next year when 21-22 season starting. And if the Canucks don't make the playoffs, that definitely throws a little bit of a wrench in there.
Yeah.
But I don't want to waste time thinking, okay, let's just run this Demko guy for as long as we can in this season that is very quickly becoming less and less important in terms of like your future success. Like it's very clearly becoming a bit of a wash of a year. So why waste him on, I guess, garbage time efforts? Like, just keep him keep playing him the way that you are. Keep the goaltenders rotating, at least kind of like, I guess you should look away from the 50-50 split a bit more and go towards something more like a 65-45 or 70 or even close to like 75-25 if you really want to go in that direction. Because Demko is clearly the better goalie, and I would have said that at the beginning of the season too. I think he was the 1A, but there's no sense in absolutely like running this guy for this crazy amount of games this year if you don't have to, because you're gonna want him when the games matter, and you don't want to run him into the ground before you get to that point.
It basically boils down to, as well, as what is the management or coaching's philosophy right now. And obviously there's a huge disconnect because the management group here is kind of, there's all the rumors right now that they're, basically on their last legs. Ownership's ready to jump ship and make a new decision, but they want to wait until the off season to see how things go. And you have a lame duck coach who doesn't have a new contract. So he's trying to win at all costs and prove that he's like an NHL caliber coach. So you have all this kind of disconnect. And so it's like, at one point, do you say, okay, fuck doing a 50-50, let's do a 70-30 because I'm Travis Green. I want to try and win and prove I deserve my next contract with this team, versus say, let's do 50-50. And if we win, we win. If not, whatever, there's always next year. And my main guy going into next year, Demko, won't be ridden into the ground like a Cam Talbot. Yeah. It's like a weird disconnect of what you kind of figure you're going to do for the deployment side.
I mean, I do think they're going to go in that direction. Like, again, like going forward, I do think that's probably closer to what you're going to see, especially because, I mean, the Canucks have only one more back-to-back this month, and that's against Montreal, and that's not until the 20th, and that's not until like the 19th and 20th. So I don't see why you couldn't necessarily, like, after this game, play Demko right through. Like, there's no reason you couldn't necessarily. Although, I mean, you got 2 games against Ottawa as well in there, which the Canucks have been good against. Like, Ottawa, say what you will in the way that they've beaten a couple other teams. Yeah. The Canucks handled Ottawa pretty well the last time they played them. So maybe you just throw Holtby into those anyway and just give him the games and maybe boost some confidence on his end, and you could get some better results down the line. There are good ways to handle the goaltending situation besides just giving Demko every single game. And I think right now, the way the Canucks are running the goalie situation, they've actually done it's been one of the few things that I would say have been a success this year, is the way that they've managed the goaltenders in terms of like time on the ice and game management.
Yeah, like the actual deployment side of the thing, like, I mean, you won't find any arguments here. The only issue is that the person they're doing the split with, Braden Holtby, hasn't
not doing well.
a previous form that he may have once had, which is unfortunate. But Cess Levy, other players.
Should we talk about his other Caps teammate, Nate Schmidt? Because he's been all right.
Yeah, he finally had the bounces going his way.
After so many own goals.
After all the own goal, I mean, it's kind of wild because, like, I think he's been one of the Canucks' better two-way defenders, but he hasn't had the bounces going for him offensively, and he's had none of the bounces go for him defensively. But, like, I've loved his effort in both ends of the ice. I think he's really trying. Man, like, could a guy be more snake bitten in his debut season? Like, outside of like Louis Eriksson's own goal in his debut, like, man, Schmidt like blew that out of the water this year with like 5 own goals in like the first like 20 games. Like, it's insane.
5 own goals, a couple blocks that would like hit him and go in the net. Like, there's
redirects off of his ass and shit. Like, just the worst luck. And then finally, these past 2 games, and even before that too, he's kind of like did like a bit of an arc up where he's like really kind of started getting the bounces his way, and he isn't getting, a puck to the face that deflects off the bar and then the back of the goalie's left heel and then into the net, or he isn't taking a shot and then his stick blows up and then he trips on his own stick and it's like it's going a bit better. And for a guy like Nate Schmidt, like a bit better is all he kind of really needed for him to get his groove back, Stella style,
Yeah, he's been a good part of this team. He's been one of the few parts that have, like, even when things haven't gone well for him, like, you still notice him doing good things. Like, you still see him doing good things and making good plays. The fact that sometimes that the mistakes he makes have been a little bit nuts and chaotic and have wound up in the net have unfortunately given him a bit of a bad rep to start off with here in Vancouver, and it's good to see him finding the bounces going in that opposite direction and getting some like good shots away and everything, especially because I think he is a good offensive contributor. Mm-hmm. And especially on this team, the way things have been going, he hasn't really. It's not even just that he hasn't been getting the bounces, it's that he hasn't really been getting the opportunities because they need him to be so much
time defending basically than he is like producing basically.
Yeah, and that's partially just because this team isn't good enough to be letting him go free reign in the offensive zone. They need him because he's easily their most structured defensive player. They need him to basically stay back and hold the fort down when they've got him, up with Quinn Hughes or with Tyler Myers or what have you, or Travis Hamonic. I think tonight was his pairing, unless I'm mistaken.
I think he was like Edler most.
Right, Edler as well in there, who is also just a bit of a wild card this year. Schmidt is a guy who on a better defensive team, you would be noticing for more good things, especially in the offensive end of the ice. And just right now, this team is so top heavy that he's not able to have that he's not getting those chances. So when it does come for him, which it totally did against Connor Hellebuck on Monday, good. That's awesome. That's a great step in it. It's good to see him smiling, I guess.
Yeah. Because, like, so much of the talk, like, at the start of the season was like, you're going to love Schmidt. He's got such a good energy. He's such a great locker room guy. He's all the positivity in the world. And it's just like the Canucks, like, broke him.
Yeah, I was legitimately, like, thinking at the beginning of the season, like seeing all the Caps fans and, like, Knights fans talking about how nice and, like, what a fun guy he is. I'm just like, oh, my God, they're going to, before the season, I was like, somehow they're gonna break him, aren't they? Like I was like, not necessarily like I thought they were gonna be this bad or something. Yeah. I was just like, knowing the Canucks, something is gonna happen and they're gonna break this really nice guy, like this really nice, fun, chatty guy, and then by the end of the year he's gonna be like giving one-word answers in all his interviews, and you just see him getting like more and more depressed, and I'm just like, no, they broke the guy already. It took only like half a year and they did it. But now it looks like it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. He's good. We're good. Yeah, I'm not panicking.
He's on the right track to being, as I believe his nickname in like Washington and Vegas, the real Schmitty.
Yeah.
So maybe
unbreakable Nathan Schmidt.
If there was like any kind of like real like marginal takeaway from like the last like few games, it was like, okay, Schmidt had some bounces go his way. Maybe that'll be his rallying confidence thing for him. Like, hey, the bounces are going my way. I'm gonna start shooting more from the point. I'm gonna be more active and trust myself and my instincts in the defensive zone or whatever. Maybe that's what comes out of it. They don't get the points, but little things.
Little things, that's the where have I heard that before?
I know, like it really sucks, like in the last year of Pettersson and Hughes entry-level contracts, like the main takeaways every game are like the little things, and like the moral victories, like that's all you can really take away in each game this season. Like that sucks.
Yeah. That's all we have right now.
This should be like the all-in year. Like if last year wasn't the all-in year in like the second year of their deals, when it was like this team is like really something, like the fact that this is like a step back, like a regression, and
a
like
big one
and a huge one. Like the draft isn't even going to be that good this year by all accounts. So it's like you're tanking for like a marginal. Like people are like there isn't even a guarantee like that the top first round of the draft is going to produce anything. Like that's terrible for a team like the Canucks, where it's like, okay, the 1 year, like where it's like really weird because of COVID, and the one time they might actually land a top 3 pick because they're actually terrible. It's a year when all the players are a complete crapshoot to even like maybe turn into NHLers. Like that's
yeah, it's just a whole mess. But this is what happens. This is what happens when the foresight's not there, and sometimes you get locked into a lot of contracts that you shouldn't. Nate Schmitz is a great contract. Like he would be if you put him on a team that's like you put him on this team like, and they still have the room for like guys like Stetcher and or even like guys in free agency that you could bring in. Like all of a sudden, hey, that's a good group. I
actually didn't realize it was 4 years left on that deal.
On the Schmidt deal?
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's a good contract for the value. Like in terms of what you're getting for him. Like
yeah, for sure. That's what I mean. Like I didn't realize it was like he was locked in for that long. I knew he had his like his modified no trade clause and all that, and it was like a pretty decent cap hit for what he brings. I didn't realize it was for 5 years.
Yeah. And they got him for a second round pick. Like that's all it took, because the Knights were just needed to move him. Like that's great. Like that's insane. Like, and
it's always good when a good player who's actually gonna like be useful to you falls into your lap because another team has a worse cap situation than you.
Yeah, if
that deal doesn't happen, like if they didn't get Nate Schmidt and the offseason was you lost all those players and your replacement was Travis Hamonic and that's it.
Oh my god.
There's no way they would have survived, or the management group would have survived like the first 10 games. There's no way in hell.
I mean, who knows? I mean, we'll get into that in a second, because I mean, there has been talk with management about what their plans are, or what their plans were, at least at one point. But as far as like the last couple of games have gone, I did want to, as quickly as well, like just shout out like Pettersson's looked very good. Pettersson and Besser have been clicking for the last couple of games. I think they've looked like they're looking a lot, especially Petey. Like Besser's been good all year. Petey is looking a lot more like himself. He's looking a lot more confident, and he's looking a lot more skilled in the other end of the ice. And he's the puck's going in for him finally on a regular basis. Like it's good to see that level of play coming back for him. Yeah. And then as well, Hoglander finally getting a goal. It took him some time. He's another guy that's been
points break there, but props to him for getting on the board.
He's been working so hard, getting like black eyes and high sticks, and like he got high stick time. I'm looking, I'm like, oh my god, that face of his is gonna be mangled by the end of the year.
Kind of like Nate Schmidt getting ruined emotionally. Niels Hoglander is gonna be like a disfigured mess by the time this season's over, because he just battles so hard.
He's like, how can you not love this guy? Like he's so he's so fun. He is just working hard every single night. Like I think it was it the Roxy Fever account that was like, who's your favorite Canuck and why is it Niels Hoglander?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, I can't deny it. Right now he's my favorite guy on the ice every single night. I love the guy.
It's like kind of wild, because you just kind of know at some point in this Canucks hit like tenure in history, like a guy like Niels Hoglander might be someone they have to lose because they can't afford him because of the deals they're gonna have to spend on Pettersson and Hughes. And I'm just picturing all those like creeps and weirdos on Twitter who are like, the second he gets moved on from and traded for some
how dare you
bum. Hold on.
How dare you put this darkness into the world?
This is my job, okay? So I'm waiting for those same people to come out and be like, I was never a Hoglander fan. He was always too small. Kind of like all those freaks that the second the team walked away from Troy Stetcher, they all put out their things being like, Stetcher's a 7th defenseman on a good team. He's always been shit. He's too small. He never works hard. Like, fuck you. Stetcher would be the third best defenseman on this fucking team because they're all fucking slow and garbage and don't work hard enough because they're ancient. Like, honestly, do you think he's worse than Tyler Myers, Travis Hamonic, or Jordy Ben? No.
Oh Lord, no. He's on at least on the second pairing.
It would be Hughes, Schmidt, and then Edler Stetcher in like a tie for third, and or basically whoever looks better between the two of them. And it would probably be Stetcher most of the time because Edler's taken a step back. He's been fine, but man, he looks so slow at times.
Yeah, I really hate that you put that evil out into the world. I really do.
Well, this is a reality. Like, you can't like get affixed to like a group of players as if they're gonna be around forever. Like, that's just not the way the NHL works anymore.
But he's not. But he's only been here 1 year. Not even 1 year. He's been here half a season. He's gonna be here for at least a few. Like, he's not.
I just look at it like. Look at the Maple Leafs of like when they still kind of had Babcock, and it was like they signed I think it was Kapanen and Andreas Janssen to like 3-year $1.25 million a year contracts, and everyone was like, this is the core that's going to take this team to the Cup final. And all those contracts were just like basically food to acquire other pieces or use in other deals to acquire other pieces that would better serve their cup run team. And that's kind of the fear I have with like a management group like this, is that they haven't been able to sign anyone to good deals except for the young kids. So the only people they would have to move down the line, if it was this management group or the next one, if they needed to say rejig the core because they can't afford anyone else moving forward. They can't afford Podkolzin because Pettersson and Hughes combined for $22 million. You know who's probably going to be the best chip to get rid of a bunch of dead weight? It's going to be Hoglander on a 2-year $1 million contract. You know what I mean? Like, it sucks to say, but that's just like the way, like just how bungled the cap has been the last 6 years, that's just like kind of what's going to happen. I hope not. I hope the next GM that can come in can just like wipe the slate clean with a bunch of aggressive moves. But as you and I know, things never work out so well for the Canucks when it comes to being proactive or making moves that make sense and set the team up for long term.
Yeah, I mean, I think this weekend was a really good indicator of that. I mean, the whole Jake Virtanen saga.
I should leave the room whenever I should leave the room whenever we talk about Jake Virtanen because I always go on these giant tangents.
Now, we're not going to talk necessarily about his play because right now. We're talking about the fact that they did try to trade him. They did try to trade him.
They tried.
But, and, you know, to Anaheim, I believe the return was believed to be Danton Heinen. Yeah. And the talks apparently did not materialize, or at least are dead for now. Because Canucks ownership was not willing to retain $800,000 on Jake Virtanen, on Virtanen's contract next season. And here's the thing. I know a lot of people were like saying, okay, we're saying like, oh, this just proves how broke ownership is and everything, right? Like that was the big one. And like people were like getting mad at ownership for not doing it. And while I do agree that this trade probably should go through, like it would have been a good deal for the Canucks in terms of you actually not only do you get rid of Virtanen's contract, you're also getting Danton Heinen, who's actually like not bad. Like he's actually a pretty decent player in terms of like depth. Like he would actually make, I would argue he would be in a good addition for the team. It would make the team better. Mm-hmm. On just a pure hockey standpoint, from a pure hockey standpoint.
Right.
But I think the big thing is, and I think it was Jackson McDonald who brought it up first, was that, is that this seems to be more or less ownership going to management and saying, we're not giving you any extra money to make any deals because we don't trust you with it. We don't trust you to make this to make the correct decision here. And honestly, I don't see anything wrong in that logic if that's true.
Yeah.
Like they should if it's very much if you're going to get yourself out of this mess, it's going to be with assets that you already have. You are not getting anything extra to help you make a deal, which and if that's at least the language I'm seeing, and if that is what the ownership stance on it, at the very least, I don't see them being incorrect in that line of thinking.
Yeah, and like you said, like you can't fault them too if it's not a good look if you're the boss and you're saying, "Oh, hey boss, 3 months ago I gave this guy a 2-year deal. I need you to eat $800 or $350,000 more
so I can get rid
him away." Like that's an awful look. Like even as the GM, I don't even know how you would approach that with your owner without looking like a complete idiot. Like,
hey, remember that guy that we signed instead of Tyler Toffoli? I need more money to get.
Unless it was an ownership directed thing that they needed to sign Jake or something like that. Like, right. Like we don't know. We like that kind of stuff would never come out unless like someone bugged the offices of Francesco Aquilini, but it'll never happen. We'll never know like what the kind of directives were when it comes to Jake Virtanen. But I mean, it's a really bad look when he has like a deal that's pretty like you can buy it out and it's like a really cheap cap hit. And the fact that they can't do it because the owner doesn't want to eat less than like $1 million in cash back. Ooh.
Yeah. But at the same time, like on the other hand, right? Obviously ownership does not have trust in management, despite what the Twitter thread said. And again, it comes back to this whole question of why are you letting this drag out? Like if you have, because again, this very much seems like a trade of, let's say you literally take out Jim Benning in that ownership group or that management group, and you flip in a new guy, like anybody, like say, I don't know, like Chris Gear, for example,
right? Who's you just promote within or something like that.
You promote within, or you put him on the interim tag until you find somebody else a candidate you like more.
Yeah. And
they come to you with that same offer. I think that and it seems like that would be a trade that would go through if it was somebody else at the helm. Which begs the question again, why wouldn't you just cut the cord? Why if you're going to hamstring them this much from making any sort of changes, which the team does need, frankly, under the right people, why not just cut your losses now, give the reins over to a guy for the interim, and then figure out, and then when you decide you're ready to, figure out your change. Figure out who you're going to bring in to hire. You can still make some decent moves in that time. It still leaves you enough time, especially right now, where if you did make a change and give someone else the interim tag, they would have enough time to prepare for the trade deadline and say, okay, your whole goal here is preparing to move some assets and working to make some smart decisions by the trade deadline. And I get that maybe because you don't have a president right now, because if you let go of Benning, that's your GM and your president out the door right now, I believe. That maybe there's a kind of a concern there. But I don't know why. I don't know why, if they're going to make this so difficult to make any sort of changes, why you're dragging this out as long as it goes.
It's very bizarre. Like, I get that obviously, like, COVID-19 and its impact on like people's finances, like that's going to be like a big factor here. Granted, like the Aquilinis are spread out between property development and winemaking, and last time I checked, people were boozing quite heavily during COVID, so I don't know how you could be hurting that badly.
That is the thing I've wondered about that, like just in the sense of like, I don't like, are like their business, like I don't know much, obviously we don't know much about like their businesses or anything, but I would assume they were doing like fine, just because like, I mean, apart, like people in a pandemic still need housing, so it's not like that's necessarily off the table. I wouldn't say that's necessarily you're losing money, that much money anyway, but we don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, but it's like, it's very bizarre to even like COVID aside, like that asterisk aside, it is very bizarre to suddenly put your pride in your hands and be like, no, like the buck stops here. We just had the most unprecedented success since we hired you, Jim, but now we're gonna tie up the purse strings and you're gonna have to make do with the mess you made. It's like, you're gonna create, like, you would surely have to realize as the ownership group, like, you need to be able to spend to get out of messes when you create them, even if like you were all in the previous year on Jay Beagle and Antoine Roussel. Like, you as ownership still signed off on the deals and said, yeah, go for it. So it's not just like the GM fucking around with the money. Like, you approved of the deals. So why, after your unprecedented success, are you suddenly trying to like take the high ground and be like, oh, well, after this run against, like, what was the quote earlier this year? Like, they're going to determine in the next 5 games whether or not like Jim's their guy moving forward.
That was the rumor anyway. It was like,
right. I mean, it was definitely more than rumor, because literally 3 days later, then he came out with like a giant tweet storm, like after the moment of doom,
no wins,
tired of the hashtag fake news, like a complete clown.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, it's very mixed messaging, and it's just like, it reeks of like PR type shit. Like, it's not, none of the moves actually benefit the team or like their, like the organization. It's purely just Francesco Aquilini being like, well, look, I cut the purse strings because I was tired of the way the money was being spent, and but that's not on me. Like, you know what I mean? I have their backs. I back the decisions, but at the same time, don't spend any of my money and don't make my team better. But you better make it better. Like,
right.
And
now what's worse is now you have a situation where basically Jake Virtanen knows he basically could have gotten traded. Like, he would have, if
they were that close.
If they literally he knows right now, I was $800,000 away from getting traded. Like, and what do you do now? Now you have a player who knows they were about to get traded, and they were clearly showcasing him a little bit in this game. He was playing on the first line, I think, at one point.
A little bit, yeah. Like, he knows that his back's against it. Like, he needs to basically play his way back into maybe not being traded. And
he's got to be not happy right now. Like, him and his agent are probably not super happy right now. And now you're looking at a case where all the other teams in the league also know that you are desperate to get rid of a guy without any retained salary to avoid any extra headache, which means you're now in an even worse possible negotiating stance than you were even a week ago. So. Oops. And especially because, and I'm sad because I did like Danton Heinen in terms of like a player. Like, he's not a world beater. Like, he's not going to make the Canucks immediately better.
No, but I think on the Canucks bottom six, like what they need is speed, and they need to basically phase out like the needs for Jay Beagles and Antoine Roussels and Brandon Sutters. And Danton Heinen's way younger. He's a proven scorer. He had like a better points rate than Jake has in his entire career. So like, if you can get him in and he actually gels and molds to the bottom six and can be reliable, whereas like Jake has only been reliable when paired with like the team's best players, I mean, you make that deal 10 times out of 10.
And if you want guys who are, good, who have good experience and are like, they always talk about having guys who've been there before. This is a guy who's been to the Cup final. He's young, but he's been to a Cup. So he went to a Cup final. So he knows what it takes to get there, and he knows his role, and he knows his role on a good team. He was a big part of the Bruins' run to the Cup final, specifically because they could rely on him not only not be a negative in his own end of the ice when the Bergerons and Marchands and Pasternaks of the world are not on the ice, but also keep the scoring flow even from even those third and fourth lines. Like, that was a well balanced attack the Bruins had that year. And
they lost to a bigger, heavier team that played more physical. It's very weird how that ended up.
And it could have been yeah, how about that, right? Well, how the turntables. And yeah, and frankly, it could have been, it was a coin, that whole series was a coin flip. Like, it very easily could have gone
Game 7
in Boston. It was a Game 7. Like, it very much could have gone, again, the Bruins very easily could have won that game just as easily as the Blues did end up winning. So that would have been a good pickup for them. If they could have gotten it. I do hope they can maybe work something out there, if possible, or try and recoup that move at the end of the day. But we shall see. We shall see where this goes.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably enough of the Jake Virtanen talk. Which is, I almost want, we need a soundboard where it's me saying that's enough of the Jake Virtanen talk, and then we cue it up, because every time we talk about Jake, it goes on for like a really long time, because we're just like, fucking Jake.
It's because it really is. The Jake Virtanen conversation is very much it's like a tree. It's like it just has so many branches, and it just splits off into different corners. It goes to management. It goes to roster.
It goes to other teams,
it goes to other
roster
teams.
construction, cap management, and it's all completely emblematic of just like this management group in general. Like they put all their hopes and their apples in this cart that's Jake Virtanen, instead of taking like the high skill upside guy, Nick Ehlers, who is available, and
goes into Nick Ehlers. That's a whole, just like a whole sub branch over here.
Yeah, like that's its own branch. And then there's like the other part of it, like the Jared McCann pick in that same draft, and the David Pastrnak right after. Like,
okay. To be fair, a lot of teams missed out on Pasta. The Canucks are not the only.
22 other teams.
A lot of teams, just enough, a lot.
Enough teams where it's like, okay, you can't really fault them, because when you have 2 picks in the first round and you fuck up on both, and your returns on one of them, currently it is Will Lockwood and Tanner Pearson. That's all you got for it. That's pretty tough.
But Pearson might come in handy later down the line. You never know.
Oh man, like I was thinking about this, I think on Monday's game when I was watching, I was like, man, when in our like first episodes that we were doing together, we were talking about the pre-Infinity Gauntlet, like who did you think was the best player? And both times, I think you and I both said like the team's best forwards, even though they're playing like shit, are Bo Horvat, Niels Höglander, and Tanner Pearson. They are easily the top 3. And flash forward to now, man, and I haven't seen anything out of Tanner Pearson lately.
Yeah, it's been
he tries hard, but like, man, it has
been a little snake bitten.
And sure. Like, there's times too where like tonight and the game before, Höglander was moved down to a line with Gaudette and Sutter, and people are like, "Oh, how could you demote Höglander?" I'm like, who cares? Like, Höglander is a one-man line machine. He doesn't need Pearson or Horvat for success. He creates the success himself. It doesn't matter what line he's technically on. He makes it better because of who he is. The issue is you have Tanner Pearson on as a second line forward, and he doesn't bring anything anymore.
Yeah, I think
he's been completely invisible, really.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, that Horvat as well has been a little bit quiet for my liking over the last little bit. And if we could spend some time on that. That might be something we should look at. We should like prep for the next episode. Like I didn't think to put anything in the doc on this one for today.
No,
but yeah,
I was just thinking about this like right now. But like, man,
because we could go back and find those shifts.
Patreon episode is just like how rough has it really been?
Yeah, maybe that's something we should look into for like the Patreon episodes in terms of like. We could do like some heavy breakdowns, literally with like let's break out the game tape and stuff. Like we could do that. That is the kind of stuff we could do.
Yeah. Well, until then, we'll just get into some NHL news then, because we could probably. I think we're gonna end up spiraling into the this is bad territory. So let's not do that. Let's let's instead just focus on some NHL news. We'll talk about some Utica Comets too before we sign out here. But some NHL stuff. I don't know if you watched this game, but I saw that video of Jordan Binnington getting pulled and trying to pull a Happy Gilmore and assault everyone on the ice on his own.
And by trying you mean like
embarrassing himself.
Pretending to punch guys.
Act.
Oh, you're so like, oh my god. Like the Canucks really the Canucks break a lot of people. They also broke Jordan Binnington, which a lot of people are fine with.
Yeah, everyone's happy about that.
It's so funny. It like that game. First of all, I did watch. I watched the third period of that game after the whole Binnington fiasco. I'm like, oh my god, I gotta turn this game on. This looks fascinating. And then sure enough, I ended up getting like another 5 goals out of it in like half a period too.
Yeah,
it was nuts. Like that game was so fun. It was so fun. We talk about the Canadian division being full of high scoring and no defense. Hello, Blues and Sharks. That was nothing.
Hello,
defense just
division or whatever it's called
disappeared. Yeah. The whole Binnington thing was just like I think Elliot Friedman was talking about on 31 Thoughts today about how he's done this kind of thing before, like in the AHL and stuff, in junior or whatever. It's like, okay, like maybe he has. That doesn't actually make him a rile him up guy. I wouldn't be riled up watching my goalie who got lit up for 4 goals on a very low amount of shots basically throw a tantrum on the ice. Like, that just makes me want to play for him less. Like you gotta cut that out. Like that's not right. Really like if anyone
who said embarrassing and like that shit.
Anyone who thinks that's riling your team up and like, they won the game. They won the game in spite of that.
Yeah,
come on.
That was the ultimate. Like, dude, you're embarrassed. Like that's like you're like watching your parents dance or something, like that level embarrassment, like where you're just like, dude, like what the fuck are you doing? Like you got lit up and got kicked out, and then you tried to pick a bunch of fights, and we had to clean up your mess. Like, embarrassed.
Like, and like all the players were all like, he inspired us to win. You don't have to lie to us. We know he didn't.
We know just Binnington. You don't have to defend him. Nobody.
Yeah.
You don't want to.
Especially because Ville Husso was fine afterwards and actually got the W in that game. Maybe give some credit to him instead.
Yeah, no kidding.
That game was a gigantic mess. And I will say I thought it was like funny in a sad way how many people were like, oh wait, Martin Jones isn't starting this game for the Sharks. It was not in net. I like Martin Jones and I really want him to be successful. It's been a rough go for that guy and Devin Dubnyk for that matter.
Speaking of rough contracts, but
it's been tough. It's been tough sailing for them. I will say they looked good in those uniforms. The Sharks did in the throwback jersey.
Yeah, their reverse retro is like legit.
So that's actually not the reverse retro. That's they have the gray version of that. They have a gray version, which is their reverse retro. And then that's just their regular, like, heritage jersey, like the Flying Skate was for the Canucks last year. Because it's, like, their 30th anniversary. So they've got
okay, well,
they've
then
got
all their
two.
They got the same to me.
I mean, they're all teal, black, and silver, and white.
With a shark on the front.
With a shark in a triangle biting a hockey stick. So, yeah, they're all pretty close.
They look pretty close.
They're all pretty damn close. The Sharks are a team that are not doing so well, but they're looking good whilst doing it. And I will say, Sharks fans, on a completely unrelated note, Sharks fans need to appreciate Erik Karlsson more. Man, like he's like I get that he's taking a little bit.
It's hard to appreciate him on that deal, man. Holy smokes.
But okay, yeah, I get it. But also, they've been like that even before he signed it. Like they have so underappreciative of what Erik Karlsson is. Like it's insanity. I've never seen anything like it. Like it's like I get that the cap hit is bad, but again, you can't blame the player for taking the money they're given. So like the fact that they're being like, oh, he's the worst. Like they're legit like, oh, he's our worst defenseman. Oh, he's a toxic in the locker room and everything. It's like. I don't buy any of that for a second, and
it's all hearsay. So it's like I'm sorry. Do you not understand good hockey? Do you not understand what a great defenseman he is, and literally everyone else would be if it wasn't for the cap hit problem. Literally every team would be rolling over backwards to get him. Like, okay, sure, okay. If you don't want him, lots of teams will take him. Sure. Yeah. Well, he just scored his first goal a couple games ago, so good for him. Other NHL news, Canadians, they beat the Senators tonight and like an hour later fired their goaltending coach, which I don't know. That's just really funny to me. I have nothing to add to this conversation, but it's just like, I don't know. The timing of that was really, really funny because it was like Carey Price stopped 29 of 30 shots or something. Like, that's just really funny.
Yeah. I will say I at least am glad that they're not doing the whole thing where they're like, oh, we're waiting for a loss to fire a guy that we've decided to get rid of already. Because
it's proactive.
I hate when teams do that. But it is a little bit funny. But I mean, have you looked at Carey Price's stats this year? They're not good. They're very much not good, which is weird because he started the season relatively well. He started pretty decently.
Well, a lot of people said, like, when this season like kind of started, they were like, expect a regression on, like, you know, the Habs shooting percentages, their save percentages, like it's all going to regress quite a bit. There's no way they're going to be this lucky. And sure enough, they went on that little kind of awkward run, and they fired all the coaching staff and hired or promoted the AHL crew to the NHL. And even after a win, they're still like, you know what, our goaltending, as much as we love Carey Price, it can be better. So we're going to get rid of our longtime goaltending coach and bring in Sean Burke to be a new guy.
Yeah, he's been there because he's been their he's been like their president of goaltending or something, like coaching or whatever, like performance or something. He's been in the system for them for a bit. But I mean, yeah, like Carey Price right now, he's 12 games. He has a record of 5-4 and 3. Mm-hmm. His save percentage of .888. That is really bad, especially when you consider that Jake Allen in 8 games has a where is it, 929.
Yeah, he's been
Jake Allen,
solid for them. Yeah.
Jake Allen has been Jake Allen, which is where he just will, like, sometimes he'll look like super, like, you're just like, oh my god, this guy's not an NHL goalie. And then all of a sudden, he'll literally just flip into God mode. Like, he does it all the time. It's really fun. Jake Allen's a very fun goalie. Yeah. The problem, though, obviously, is that even though as great as Jake Allen is, you kind of have no choice but to keep riding Carey Price or keep giving Carey Price starts and hoping he gets back to form, because he's on year 3 of an 8-year contract worth $10.5 million per season. You're not getting rid of him. You can't make Jake Allen your number one guy. You can't buy that. You can't buy that out. You're probably not gonna trade that. Not gonna be able to trade that. So you need it to work with Carey Price as long as. And right now, that kind of is at a detriment to the Habs and what they might be able to do if, say, they were able to maybe give Jake Allen a couple extra starts here and there.
Yeah.
Oh, but also, hey, Alex Burrows is an assistant coach now. That's pretty cool.
We got that. That's pretty neat.
Good for him.
Guy really starts exciting. In the ECHL. We'll get into this in the comments talk a bit, but actually we won't because I don't give a shit. St. Louis Blues prospect Dakota Joshua. Originally brought into, I think, Toronto's system on like PT or ATOs and stuff like that. He started his career in the ECHL. Works his way up to the AHL like part-time, and then because of the number of players that aren't available to the team, he gets like a couple good games going for the Comets, gets a call up to the NHL and scores a goal in his first game. Like, for like, it's just like the Burrows thing.
Hell yeah.
You love to see it. Like, dudes rock, dudes work hard, and it pays off, and you see him get success. Like, Burrows, like, do you think anyone in the Canucks fandom in 2006 is like, yeah, this guy's gonna be one of like the most revered players of all time, and he's gonna end up being an NHL assistant coach? Like, no one would. Everyone would just be like, he's just a ball player from ECHL. He's not gonna be anything.
You want to know something really cool? I was at the game where Alex Burrows scored his first NHL hat trick. I was at that game.
Shit.
That was I think that was. That would have been his rookie season. That was his rookie season. It was against Matthew Guerin and the LA Kings, and that was Alex Auld was in net for the Canucks at that point. That was still that was where they were. It was the year before they got Luongo. This was like the first year after the lockout. They missed the playoffs and everything.
It was like the
Anson,
year.
Carter, Sedin year. Yeah. They were Alex Burrows like very quickly rose up the ranks to become like one of their most exciting players, and it was so weird. Like now that he's at that time he's like third line playing with Kessler. I think at the time like it was him and Kessler. Kessler's still wearing number 20 at that time, and they're like just little baby guys like going in and like getting a bunch of points on the third line and getting a hat trick. Like that was such a fun game, and that's so cool to see him. Getting to where he is. Who knows? Maybe he'll end up finding his way back to Vancouver on in a coaching capacity someday.
I think I remember reading someone that had said the Canucks did offer him like an assistant coach position, kind of like they did with Manny Malhotra, but he was like, I'd rather be in Montreal close to my family or something like that, and that's why he took the job with Laval. So maybe they try, but like he's probably gonna be like, I'm going to get my reps under me for the Montreal Canadiens, and I wouldn't blame him. Like, could you imagine like he like gets his first year as an assistant coach and he takes that team to the playoffs? Yeah. Like the legend of that guy would just keep growing, man. You need a second spot for him. Like he could end up being a Ring of Honor player in 2 different teams.
Do the Canadians have a Ring of Honor?
I don't know. They have like so many retired jerseys. Like they probably don't even have space in their rafters anymore.
Like they're putting them. Oh, we're gonna put you right next to Scotty Bowman. Their Alex right there.
Yeah, we're gonna put you right next to Guy Lafleur. Not his jersey, but just this little thing in the corner.
Who else has been a big coach for the Habs? Toe Blake. It's Toe Blake. It's Scotty Bowman. It's Jacques Lemaire. It's Alex Burrows, assistant coach. They just skip over Dominic Ducharme to give him.
Nobody cares. It's more important that the ECHL guy rose to be an NHL assistant.
And it's like him. It's like, you know what? It'll be like if it was when they do like a picture of him. It's gonna be him like doing like the bow and arrow, but instead he's holding a clipboard, and a pen and a clipboard.
Dude, Georgia Quiz, can you please draw that for us?
Habs, hire us for your marketing. You could use us. That's a $1 million move right there.
There you go. There's some merch.
Georgia, if you're watching, absolutely we want a shirt of that. I'll try and reach out to her. I will absolutely have to reach out to her and try and get that done.
We're running long a bit, so we'll just kind of laze through some of the other NHL things, because one of the other important
know what? Let's just skip to Comments Corner. Let's just go right there. Okay. None of this other stuff's that important. We can. You don't
want to talk about Jack Eichel contradicting his coach?
Okay, you know what? We can touch on that. That is very interesting. Even though we've talked about the Sabres a lot in the last few episodes.
We're apparently a Buffalo Sabres podcast now.
I mean, partners in misery, cousins in expansion, cousins in misery. We'll have to have Dwayne on the show, the guy with that crazy phone. We follow each other on Twitter, so I think I probably could get him.
We'll try.
Oh no. The Sabres are in a lot of trouble. I think I just saw a tweet. I think Greg Wyshynski retweeted a quote from the game tonight, the Sabres game tonight against the Rangers, during their post-game show, where that's just a dreadful hockey team. They should be embarrassed. They're in a lot of trouble, the Sabres are, and now you've got a coach who doesn't know when his best player is injured, or he's lying about it,
scratching him for effort levels. It's just like, oh my god.
Oh, I didn't even think about him possibly just scratching him. That would be nuts.
Because that's the only other thing I could think of is like the coach was like, I'm gonna scratch Eichel because I don't like his effort in practices or games lately or whatever. And so he just says he's injured,
But he is injured. He was hurt. It just was.
He's back tonight, so I don't know.
It was just earlier than the guy said it was. Like, I mean,
makes no sense.
Oh my god, if they're I didn't even think about the possibility that he might be benching Eichel. I mean, they've already got $9 million sitting in the box. What's 9 more?
Who cares? Just rack it up. Who cares?
Oh my god. My. This like, what do you do if you're Buffalo? Like, at this point, it's such a.
Hope the Bills are good.
Because, like, I mean, we talk at like forever, obviously, about the Canucks struggles, the one thing the Canucks can say they have going for them, more or less, is that it's not a completely lost, like, environment. Like, it's not a toxic environment yet.
Like,
they got to a playoffs last year.
For all the jokes that we have about, like, this being, like, moral victory season and whatever, there's moral victories to be had, like, legitimately.
Yeah.
For Buffalo
the Sabres
Sabres,
have none.
They haven't had any playoff success since 2008 or whatever it was. Like,
the Canucks making one playoff appearance, immediately just whoop right over the Sabres, launch them right over Buffalo. And
it's been a decade, almost a decade and a bit of pure pain for Buffalo fans, and there isn't like any moral victory. Like, what's the moral victory? Is like, oh, we sent like Casey Middlestad after we burned a year off his ELC by keeping him in the NHL too early. Like, we have him back again after a year in the AHL, and he looks okay for now. Like, that's the moral victory. Victor Olofsson's pretty good as a seventh rounder. That's the moral victory. But like, man,
even he's like older. Even he's like an older guy.
Yeah, he's like 20. He's like 24 or 25 or whatever. But like, there isn't much. And man,
there isn't
you
much.
Appreciate what you got as a Canucks fan. That's
seriously. It's funny because I was literally thinking today, like, oh, like the Sabres, like, you know who could really use us, like a guy like Nate Schmidt is Buffalo right now, right? But then when you think about it, right? Like, obviously Canucks are not getting, like, this is not me saying, oh, the Canucks should trade Schmidt to Buffalo. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, had there been like a deal back when the Knights were making the Pietrangelo signing, Buffalo would have been a team that really could have really should have tried to go in on that. That would have been a trade. That would have been a deal that they should have absolutely tried to make happen. I don't know whether or not they did. But then the more I think about it, I think about the fact of, if they get Schmidt, he just turns bad like everything else there. Like, every single player that seems to have some sort of like good upside and seems to be like a good pick immediately turns into a pumpkin the second they go to Buffalo. Like it's Brandon Montour. Who's the other guy on the there's another defenseman they picked up from Vegas, also from Vegas. Colin Miller. He was pretty good. And then goes to Buffalo.
He was good, and then he went there, and his stats
right off a cliff.
Completely tagged, and all of his underlying metrics went to hell. That's the Buffalo way, man.
So many players that happens to. Like Taylor Hall. Big one right there is Taylor Hall. Guy who signs the 1 year, let's see what happens.
Bet on himself. It didn't really work.
Immediately turns into a pumpkin. Like, what do you do? Like, what can you do? Because it doesn't seem like it seems like right now, frankly, you could, like, even if you somehow managed to pull together like Connor McDavid out of nowhere, that it would just go wrong too somehow. Like, somehow it would just be just as bad. That's what it seems like.
That place needs an ownership change, basically, and like a complete overhaul of just like fundamental, like the way they run their business.
Foundational.
It needs a complete shift in culture, top to bottom.
Yes, and I don't know how you fix that. Like, I don't even, like, I think, like, there are ways to do that even without changing ownership per se. I think it comes down to who's
Fortunately, the ownership too of that group is like toxic as all fuck.
They're very hands-on. They're extremely hands-on.
Yeah.
And in a way, to the detriment of the Sabres, the Bills, who they're also very hands-on with because they own the Buffalo Bills as well.
Yeah.
They have done very well, which in a way, like, they're one of the best teams in the NFL, I believe, right now. They made like a conference final or something. I don't know much about football.
Yeah, but it was like for the first time in ages, I think.
But that is a big step forward.
But if they use that as like a reason to validate like why they should be more hands-on with their NHL team, that's like a big yikes, because it's like
that is
ownership
a big yikes.
Shouldn't be hands-on.
But I wouldn't be surprised if that is the way they handle things. Like, okay, don't get me wrong. When you're paying as much money as the Pagulas are for an NHL franchise, yeah, you deserve to have some say here and there. Because, hey, if you're gonna write pay billions of dollars for that, yeah, you kind of deserve to have a little bit of a say in there. But once it starts affecting day-to-day operations every single day, that's a problem. You need to have a buffer. There needs to be a Buffalo Sabre in there in there somewhere. Wow, that was horrible.
That's a good way to end the podcast right there. Don't even get into the comments. Just because
oh my god, I can't end on that. And we have questions as well.
We do,
but we should flip. Should we do comments corner? Do you want to do comments corner, or should we hold on?
We'll save that. We'll save that for another episode. We can record after tomorrow's game or something like that. And
we can do that, or maybe put that in like.
We got a lot of questions in after tonight's game, and some of them are really funny. So we want to quickly go through them.
All right.
So first one from our favorite, who's always in our inbox.
First long-time listener.
Yeah, long-time listener, first-time caller. 7890112 Annie. Why do we cheer for this team? Short and sweet. Let you answer first.
Something to do. I mean, it's quarantine. What else are you going to be doing? Going outside? What are you going to be doing? Going to the bar? I don't think so. No. Man. I mean, I'm a sucker, I guess, at the end of the day.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we're optimists who are hopeful we can watch a team succeed, and we're just waiting.
I'm admittedly a guy who loves the rags to riches stories. Like would like right now, the teams that I enjoy the most are teams like the Panthers, the Jackets, the Predators were definitely up there for a while. Like those teams that just couldn't ever seem to put it together, and then every now and then they just kind of do it. Like I think like Florida's leading their damn division right now.
Yeah, they were.
In spite of Sergei Bobrovsky. Yeah. I enjoy the idea of I want to be there when that team wins that first cup, right? Like I want to see that happen. Yeah. Hey, and I mean, I'm born here, so it's kind of like geography definitely played. Yeah,
pretty much.
Definitely played all of it, all into it.
Okay. Why? Yeah, same answers, man. What else the fuck you gonna do? And
actually, he's a Jets fan. Shh, don't let him fool you. He's a Jets fan.
Yeah, that's true. I don't give a shit about the Canucks. Second question from Marcus Meyer 27, or sorry, Marcus _ Meyer 27. The worst non-Louis contract on the team. And this one is really interesting.
Just a bunch of really positive questions, guys. I love the positivity that we've got going today.
We could actually cut out the entire beginning where we recap the game and then move the questions to the front, and people will probably know what happened in the game because the tone of every question is just like, fuck.
I did want to say, like, in terms of like people always say like this whole thing, like there's always this every time the Canucks are bad, I see the takes on Twitter like, oh, the media people, they love it when the Canucks are bad because there's drama and you get to talk about it.
It's so dumb.
Are you nuts? No, we hate it. It's so hard to tell the same damn story about a team that's bad every single week. I hate doing it. I'm sick of having to do let's look at the bright side of things, guys. I just want to cover a good team. I want to write articles and stories about a good hockey team.
Yeah.
But I do think that a lot of people, I will say this though, I think fans to a degree do want to I think there is something that can be said, like views definitely spike when a team is not doing so well. Yeah. And that's not necessarily, I think, because people are coming for the drama. I think that's literally just because people want somebody to validate their concerns.
They want answers and they want accountability.
They want to know that they're not nuts for thinking something's wrong. Like they want that validation of, oh, I'm not crazy for thinking this team's bad, or there's something up that needs to be fixed. So I'm not crazy for
thinking that Tyler Myers is like a garbage player on the worst deal on the team.
Yes, the worst non-Louis, and that brings me right into my pick for worst non-Louis contract.
Which is yours.
And again, I've defended the Louis contract plenty this year, just because of the whoops, it went extra belly up. I mean, it's obvious to me that it's Tyler Myers. Oh my god, that's sick. Like it's very
especially Brandon, like they were bidding against no one. They were the only team in on Tyler Myers, so they were basically just paying him up the ass, even though no one else wanted him on that kind of term or that kind of dollar. Like
and like you look at the other potential options here. Like Brandon Sutter's making $4.375 per year, but it's only one more year, and B, he's at least been kind of serviceable.
We're past the point where Brandon Sutter's deal, you can argue is the worst because it's expiring, right?
Right.
Like 2 years ago, yes, absolutely, because nobody wanted that contract. Actually, that's not even true.
And Tyler Myers wasn't even here yet, so 2 years ago, so that helps.
Right? So it's always like the bar was always Louis Eriksson, followed by Sutter, and then whoever else, right? And I have to recant my statement I just made about no one wanting Sutter, because after, what was it, 2015-16, they said that 7 teams or something were in on trying to acquire Sutter in the offseason of 2017. And it's like, and even
now, I think teams are trying to pick him up. Like, I think teams are asking about
that
him.
money is going to be impossible.
And I mean, it doesn't matter too much in the long term, because again, the whole point of what the season is all about now, of course, is trying to free up cap space for PD and Hughes. Yeah. And obviously, Sutter being on an expiring deal means that money's already off. That money's already gone from that equation. So that won't help. That doesn't actually make the space any bigger. And with Jay Beagle and like Antoine Roussel, they're only on 2 more. They only have 2 years left. It's the same kind of deal. And even then, like you see
those two are bad for different reasons. Like
and
those 2 deals are bad because of process reasons. Like Jay Beagle, like you didn't need to sign him because you already had Sutter in your system. You didn't need Roussel because you had, like, what was the point of signing Roussel if you're planning on signing Furland?
And the team
it made no sense.
And the team was bad enough at the time that it was like, why are you wasting so much long-term cap space?
Yeah, exactly.
On these guys when you could be saving that for the next guy, for the bigger guys that might come up, Markstrom,
or sitting entirely and not signing anyone and using that empty cap space to weaponize it and acquire better players on better deals or picks to then parlay those into better players on even better deals. Like,
and even at the bare minimum, signing guys for much shorter amounts of time. Like, like you could have, like if you really wanted Jay Beagle that badly, I no doubt you could, or Roussel that badly, I don't doubt that you could have had them for 2 years instead of the 4 that it was. Like, you could have cut that deficit down in half and not had to worry about it. And then, and if say they walk, it's like, well, what are you going to do? I need that for later. Oh well. But Myers is the obvious answer, because not only is it way too much money, not only is it a boat, it was a boat anchor the second they signed it. With all the other contracts, there was reason enough to say that there is value and that you could potentially do something with them later if push came to shove. At the time, even as bad as they were, it wasn't a completely unmovable situation. But even though the Canucks have decided not to try and move them at all, but with Myers, like the day they signed it, there's no way that's coming up. You're getting rid of that. There's absolutely
you just know that deal's not coming off without spending, basically, like either picks or some prospect or whatever. Like the only way they're getting out of that is through a trade of even more assets or through a buyout or I don't know.
Like I was yelling for days before the signing happened, like, oh my God, don't do this. This is a huge mistake. Do not do, if any Canucks management is listening, do not do this. Don't make this move. And they did it, and I was so mad. And like somebody in the thing was like, was like yelling at me for calling it a boat anchor on day one. Yeah. I'm like, you watch. Man, I hate to say it, but you watch. It's gonna happen.
The tough thing about the Myers deal too is like everyone on the planet said you shouldn't be signing him to a long-term deal at that cap dollar. You'll be lucky to get one replacement level season. And they got it already. That was last year where he was okay. Now he looks so slow. He looks so beatable if you just charge right at him. Like, it's bad. And there's still only 4 years to go. Great. That's exactly what they need on their books when they're trying to re-sign, Quinn Hughes.
Yep.
And then Pettersson. Brilliant. Next question. We're gonna get stuck in the spiral, the misery spiral again. So let's avoid it.
Here's a fun question. Let's get to the fun ones now.
So from Chan _Bing, weird name, very bizarre.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you believe in your heart that Niels will score a lacrosse goal this season? I think this is part of one of our bets actually for the season opener or season predictions.
I think so. I think you did. I think we did have it in the.
I believe I said yes. I'm especially after Monday's game where he tried it, lost it. I'm more convinced than ever. Like even though the team's struggling, the guy has the balls to try it. So I am ready and waiting for the guy to go for it.
100%. He's absolutely going to do it. And it's a matter of time. And it's a matter of picking the moment, like picking the spot, picking the right time to try it.
I refuse to believe that this season, like Sidney Crosby is going to end the season with the only lacrosse or Zorro, whatever you want to call it. He's going to be the only one with that kind of goal this season. I refuse to believe that he'll be the only one. Someone else has got to do it. And
Andrei Svechnikov, will try it. He's good for at least one lacrosse goal a year.
For sure.
So he'll do it. And I think here's the thing. I think Höglander has got to do it sooner rather than later because I wouldn't be surprised if Pettersson tried to beat him to it. Like maybe there's like a little bit of an inside bit of like, hey, who's gonna get that lacrosse goal first? Although he did say there's no pressure to get it. He's no pressure to get it. I mean, no one is pressuring him to do it. Yeah. It would just be really cool if he did. Like,
hopefully, fingers crossed.
And I could see him pulling it on like, if you run into like say a team that's not doing so well or like a goaltender that's definitely running cold.
You got Ottawa coming up. Maybe they ran through him the first time. Maybe they get
Matt Murray. That would be
Matt Murray.
That would be kind of fun. That would be a little bit funny if he scored that goal against Matt Murray, Mr. Lucky himself.
3 Michigan goals in a single game.
3. Oh, okay. Oh, so now we're going from even just is he gonna get 1, 2? All right, he better get Murray, a damn hat trick.
It's Matt Murray.
And I call it the lacrosse goal for what it's worth. It's the damn lacrosse goal. Yeah, okay. That's the correct name. That's the correct name. Don't tell me it's the Michigan. It's not.
I like Michigan because it sounds like Michigan. It sounds a fun cool. City name to say, but like it is a lacrosse goal. Hold
up. Time out. Did you just say the city name for Michigan?
Oh, did I?
Yeah, the city of Michigan. That's right, guys.
It's the city of Michigan.
Cody can't do math and he can't do geography. Yeah, and he can't do geography either. Sorry, I had to call you out there. That was bad.
They're right next to Lake. Like that city next to Lake Detroit.
Lake Detroit.
Yeah, oh no, the big one.
The town of America. That's,
next to America Town. Yeah. But anyway, last question. Hot dog from our other friend, 7890112 Annie.
He's got 2 today. He's got
two. He's leading the way here. Hot dog or Polish sausage at Costco. I wasn't aware there's anything other than hot dogs at Costco because that's the only thing you would ever really want to eat from Costco.
Really? So. Okay. And I honestly, this will probably segue into just a little bit of another thing I could talk about here. But easily the hot dog for me. Like you got to go with the hot dog, and particularly because it's like $1. It's like such a good deal. It's such a good deal. It's a cheap, great food to get, especially like if you going to like a Canucks game. Like you always see the line at the downtown Costco for that hot dog. And I will say I'm also impartial to the the berry sundae they got there, like at Costco. Not all the Costcos have them, but it's such a cheap deal for like a big cup of soft serve ice cream with like some berries whipped on top. Like it's great. It's a great combo to get that in the hot dog. And then they've got like the onion bar and like the onion and relish bar and everything. It's great. It's such a good deal for what it's worth. And honestly, when I saw this question, literally all I could think about is, God, how much I miss going to games and how much I miss being at the rink. I cannot stress enough, like during this whole quarantine, especially like recently, how much I miss being at the rink, whether that's a Canucks game, whether that's driving up to the Langley Event Center to cover a Giants game. Did one game covering a Giants game at Rogers Arena. That was so fun. Getting to see all my buddies in like the press box and everything. Like Steve Ewan, shout out to Steve from the province. He had his birthday recently. He's such a nice guy to chat. We chatted every day in the press box about just everything going on. Obviously Faber was there a couple times, Stephen Hocko. I miss those guys, and I miss like hanging out with like people at the games and everything and going to that atmosphere. so much. Like, and especially for me, like, it's really like it's therapeutic. Like, it's really therapeutic going to those games, and it really was kind of like a sense of like home and like just kind of like it's relaxing in a weird way for me. Like, it's relaxing to be at a hockey game, and man, do I not miss it. Like, do I miss it? I miss it so much right now. I don't know about you, but I miss it so much right now.
Yes.
Especially.
The quarantine, or the COVID quarantine and isolation is driving us insane. But
we're getting closer.
At least we got podcasts.
BC government said July for everybody, which is great. That's another infinity blocker
that's an infinity blocker we can hand out as we close this one out. Hopefully y'all get your vaccine. We all get our vaccines soon enough. We can start going to see games and actually, interacting with people again.
Yeah.
Until then, though, we appreciate your guys' listenership in this podcast as we carry each other, arm in arm, hand in hand through this brutal and unrelenting pandemic. So if you can, follow us on the YouTube channel. Make sure to drop comments. We love reading them. We got a great comment in the last one.
We got a whole screenplay
about our Disney. Yeah, we got a great screenplay suggestion for the David Ayers movie. Big shout out to that guy. So yeah, we read all your comments. We love them. Yep. Rate and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast streaming service, and make sure to recommend us to your Canuck friends who need a little something to listen to during these trying times. And if you like what you heard, you like our voices, probably not mine, but Lachlan, yeah.
I would argue it's the opposite. I think we all know that when I do the solo episodes, that's when the viewers suddenly take a little bit of a vacation.
Yeah, this is true. I have a great voice. So yeah, if you want to check out our other content on Patreon, we have $1 and $5 tiers where Lachlan posts exclusive content and bonus podcasts, which we'll be working on in the future. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. We really appreciate it. We know times are tough in Canucks land. Teams playing like dog shit, but your local podcasts aren't. And we appreciate you. And we'll catch you on our next episode, which we'll be recording Friday after their game against Toronto or Montreal or whoever the fuck it is.
Toronto.
Doesn't matter. It should be a good one. Hopefully we get Bubble Demko back, and we can see the Canucks maybe try and go for that Michigan goal. The Lake Michigan goal. Till then, guys, we'll catch you guys later. Bye.
Bye.